morning. Welcome everybody to Wigtown Area Committee. To start with, then, appointment of chair. Full council agreed to delegate responsibility for the appointment of chair to the area committee. So can I ask for appointment of nominations for the chair, please? Councillor Hill.
Could I nominate David Ingalls?
Yep, and I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCammon. Councillor Ingalls. Thank you.
Okay, morning members, and thank you for electing me as chair of Wigtown Committee. We now need to appoint a vice chair. Do we have any nominations? Yes, Councillor Marks.
I would like to propose Councillor Chrissy Hill as vice chair.
Seconded.
Okay. Any other nominations? So we're happy with Councillor Hill to become vice chair. Okay, thank you. If we can move on, I'll just take this opportunity to thank the previous chair and vice chair of this committee, Councillor Scobie and Councillor Hagman, for their work over the previous year. They are two very diligent councillors, and I think they've done a really good job as chair and vice chair of Wigtown Committee. So thanks should go on record to them. Okay, can we move on to sediment? Apologies, please, Claire.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We've currently 7 members present. 3 of those are on Teams, being Councillors Tuesday, Hagman and McCammon. All the other members are present in the chambers, apart from Councillor Scobie, who's currently not present. Currently, no youth council members present.
Okay, thank you. And item 3, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Chair. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Come in, Councillor.
Edward. So I have an interesting item. It's fit in the any other business. Sorry, I've not got the right page of my agenda here. So in any other business, I've got a declaration of interest. That's item 14. In the sense that I have a financial interest in the application, and I won't be able to vote or take part in that discussion. But might add that I think there's an issue with the minute from that meeting. There were 3 members present, Councillor Hill, myself, and Councillor Dashburn. Councillor Hill had an interest that didn't preclude her from voting or from taking a decision. The way that the paper reads is that the 2 councillors there that declared an interest weren't able to. Just that could be amended, please.
Claire, can you clarify that?
Okay, I believe you're talking about the item for urgent business, which is the item that went to Stranraer Common Good.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and obviously that was deferred on the 31st of March. So if the minutes not, I mean, we haven't got the. Yeah, I believe. So, look, I'm wondering if the minute's up for approval today, but I don't think it's on the.
It was approved at full council.
Was it approved at full council? No, well, that minute isn't actually up for approval today, but certainly we can make a note of that when we get to that item, and the minute will get corrected when it does appear for approval. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, members. If you can just bear with me a second, I want to go back to item 2. I haven't been following the notes properly, so we'll just retrace a wee bit. Claire, can you confirm Youth Council representation, please?
There isn't actually any Youth Council members in attendance currently, Chair.
Thank you, and I confirm my agreement to remote participation. So, on the declarations of interest, statement of connection for transparency reasons, members may wish to make a public statement, and declaration of interest, members now required to leave the meeting for that item. So I'll turn to governance to expand on this a bit so that members are clear on whether they are stating a connection or declaring an interest, the difference between the two and implications of each.
Okay, thank you, Chair Willett.
Yeah, hi. Can I declare a connection with on agenda item 7 when it talks about Newton Stewart Initiative Play Park. In connection with Newton Stewart Initiative, I am on the board of directors for Newton Stewart Initiative, and then also item 14, the any other business. I do have a connection due to the fact I was invited to be a judge at the awards on behalf of Newton Stewart Initiative, and Newton Stewart Initiative did sponsor an award, but they are a third sector organisation and have no financial gain, and we're speaking to governance. It's a connection, not an interest. Thank you.
Councillor Marsh.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd also like to declare a connection also to the last agenda item, item 14, as my mother has been put up for an award at the ceremony run by the Sonar Events Group, but I don't believe it's such that I would need to leave the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. I would also like to declare a connection in item 7 for Newton Stewart Initiative, just to be clear. Does anyone else have any declarations of interest or connections? Jackie?
Yeah, it seems we're all involved in these award in Wigtown. Yeah, again, Chair, it's not a declaration of interest. It is simply a connection that I was invited to be a judge on the judging panel for the awards, but it's not such a connection. I need to leave the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay. Item 4, minutes of the previous meeting, 1st of March 2023. Are members happy to approve the minutes from the last meeting? Agreement in the room. Moving on to item 5, Social Work Services 6-month assessment of business plan 2019 to 2023 performance. 1st of April 2022 to 30th of September 2022. And this report's by the Chief Social Worker. First report, members, is the 6-month performance report from Social Work Services. I'll comment first that it is useful to have the data disaggregated to local area level, as is in this report. The detail on unpaid work in Wigtonshire and the delivery around local work with children and young people, detailed at the bullet points 3.4.8, is specific and useful. It is also helpful to see the case studies at 3.4.9, as these bring into stark detail some of the multi-layered issues that staff are working to mitigate with local families. Sarah McGarvey is in attendance on Teams to answer any questions for members. So I'll open the floor to members' questions and comments. Sorry, can I just add that Sarah's actually in the room? Come in, Katie.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your kind comments at the start of the meeting there. So I really welcome the report, first of all. I don't sit on the Social Work Committee, so this is my only chance really to ask questions regarding this important service. And obviously we do get a 6-monthly assessment. I just want to, and this may be, and I'll give some heads up for others who will be having future reports. There may be a current theme that I'm starting here, but I want to go back to the previous 6-month report, which was on the 2nd of November, of which I was the chair at that point. And there was actually a request to get a report on respite care. And we haven't had that. We've got our next 6-monthly report, and we've still not had the previous ones. So while I really appreciate that there's an opportunity to consider in 2.3 any aspects of the performance to a relevant future committee, that doesn't appear to be happening. There seems to be a slight breakdown going on. So first of all, I would just like to just get confirmation that that respite care report will come forward in due course. But also, so that would be one aspect. I do want to welcome the fact that there is mention of the single access point, and certainly it was in our own, or my own budget that my group put forward. I really appreciate the fact that full council overturned with a 2/3 majority to agree that we could reconsider that item, so that will be continuing. But a specific question I've got is in regards to recruitment of social workers, and where are we locally with that? I appreciate that there's issues nationally in terms of recruitment, but where are we locally in Wigtownshire with recruitment? Because it'd be really useful to know for that one. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, Councillor Hagman. Just with regard to the information on respite care, is that specific to adults or is that for all respite care?
So when I was double checking back on the minutes, and there was to receive information on respite care in the next update report to Wigtown Area Committee. I'm sure governance will have a note of the actual specific request, and there will be recordings of that, but it was an agreement in 7.4. So maybe perhaps governance could advise or maybe direct you to the recording of that, because we did have a debate, and obviously I was in the chair at that point, so I wanted to ensure that that had gone through correctly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with regard to recruitment of social workers, we have we've been able to fill all our permanent adverts for social workers. So where we have someone leaving or moving to another part of the service, then we have been able to fill those posts, although obviously that takes a little bit of time, and it means that sometimes we are recruiting newly qualified workers, whereas perhaps it's been an experienced worker that's moved on. Where we're struggling is to recruit to our temporary posts. So if someone has been on a secondment, which has impacted on our ability to allow people to go on secondments, and also for maternity leave and things like that. So we have also, so that's been the main issues. In Wigtownshire, sickness has not really been so much of a problem for us. We've obviously we're looking at our workforce strategy. We're looking at how we can help people progress through their career. Obviously, we already have the student sponsorship, which is really valuable for us locally, because a lot of our social workers come through that because they've got a commitment to living locally. But we are looking to expand that and looking to how we can help people develop right from when they come in as a family support worker, as in a support role where they're not as a qualified social worker, and how we can develop them and train them through for the ones where that is appropriate and that's what they want to do. We've got some really experienced family support workers, and we're building up support around children to support the social workers where we're a little bit short of staff, and we also, the senior social workers are really good at offering support. It's nationally an issue, the recruitment, and there's less people studying for social work. So we are really looking at that plan for us locally and how we can develop our local staff. We don't very often recruit people externally from moving from other areas into Wigtownshire for social work. Sometimes, but not often. So we need to be creative and look at the staff that we've got. We are fulfilling all our duties as a service, all our statutory duties, and we're still working with lots of families who are more on a voluntary basis, but because we have good quality family support workers, that's enabling us to do that. But it is a challenge for us, and continues to be so. But we will, again, we've got people that are just about to qualify that we're recruiting and putting into post, and supporting them in their first year as they qualify.
Thank you. Can I come back again, Chair, please?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I think it is in the report, I think on 3.4.1, that it's increasing demand, and there's a lot of complexity. So certainly my thanks do go back to the team. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult some situations must be that staff are working in. So I think it's so important that we are looking after our staff and ensuring that they're well supported. I really welcome the fact that, across the region, we've had quite a lot of workshops, giving elected members further information about social work services. So, that's really been helpful. And I just refer back to one of the points that Lillian Kringles had made. It was quite a wee while ago, but it was about digital platforms and shared services, and about having staff being able to access digital platforms, essentially, so they can, not have to write up physical notes and then have to put them into a system and then time frames. Do we have a better system? Are the systems more improving? Has there been an upgrade that our social workers can in fact just put their notes direct into the system, saving time and making it a much more efficient system? Thank you.
So we have upgraded Mosaic systems to make that fit better for children and families. Obviously, justice and adult care use that system, but for us, that's been updated. But we we're not yet able to go out to a family and record and it to go immediately on the system. We don't have that facility yet. We are able to upload some of the things, in children and families, obviously I can speak better to that, but we're able to do some work with families where we take photographs and we upload those, some of the kind of tools that we use with children, but we're not able at the moment to go out with an iPad or anything and record, and that is immediately on the system. I'm not sure when that's due to happen.
Can I ask what the stumbling block is with that? Just because I can't. Why are we not doing that?
I don't know why we don't have that. That would be something we'd need to find out. I'd need to go and find out where that is.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair. And perhaps that's maybe an aspect that we can bring back to our next committee so we can get some responses. But no, I really appreciate the responses there. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Councillor Hill.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just with regard to the recruitment and retention, the Social Work Department are going to be bringing a report to the next Social Work Committee with regard to the Grow Your Own and the workforce changes that they're going to imply, and also the jobs. So looking forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Thanks, members. Anybody else want to come in? Not seeing anybody at the moment. Okay, can we move to recommendations? Members are asked to 1. Review the overall summary of performance within the Chief Social Work Officer's business plan in the Wigtown area. 2. Consider the additional area-based successes and developments as detailed in the key successes section of this report, paragraph 3.4 to 3.4.11. And 3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant future committee. Yeah, I think we need to record Katie's request for that respite report, if we can do that. Yeah, members happy to agree with the recommendations? Agreed, thank you. Can I just welcome in our youth councillors?
Yep. Chair, can we also...
Sorry, Katie.
Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it possible to capture my request for what the delay is in regards to the the uploading of information for staff and that digital side.
Yes, we've made a note of that, so that'll be captured in an action following the meeting.
And will it be in the minutes as well, Claire?
Yes, if members are reminded to have that minuted, yes.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for that, Claire. Chrissy, did you want to
Yeah,
come back?
thank you.
Yeah, just as an area committee, I'd like to wish Lillian Kringles, the head of social work, a very happy retirement as she leaves next week. So best wishes to Lillian. I'd like that noted, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. A very, very challenging aspect of work with social work at the present moment in time, and I think there is an appreciation of all the work that's done through social work and the challenges they face. So, yeah. And congratulations to Lillian on her retirement. Okay, members, we'll move to item. Sorry, did I welcome the? I was interrupted, I think. Yeah, we've had two youth representatives who have joined the meeting, Jasper Williams and Chloe at the meeting. Okay, we'll move to item 6, Health and Social Care Performance Management Reporting for Area Committee Business Meetings. Report by Chief Social Work Officer. The performance report is the Health and Social Care Performance Report covering April to December 2022. Just a couple of comments. This report highlights ongoing issues around delayed discharge in Wigtownshire, a topic which members are keen to see mitigated or resolved. Average prescribing costs per person appear to be higher in Wigtownshire than the rest of Dumfries and Galloway. It's good to see that the home teams are finding their feet, and also to see mention of the food providers network involving the local community food providers from our area that did so much to support vulnerable people during COVID and beyond. Stephanie Mottram and Caroline Ronaldson are available online to answer any questions for members, so I'll open this one up to the floor. Members, any comments? Yes, Ben.
Hi there, and thank you for the report. I appreciate that this report was written a wee little while ago, but I'm sure some of us might have seen in the headlines about Stranraer in relation to accident and emergency services. Apparently, some people may be going up to Dumfries because there's no capacity here. Just wondering if you could give a sort of scope on the situation as it is right now for A&E in Stranraer. Thanks.
Thank you. Obviously, that's not the briefing in terms of the report for today, but I'm happy to give you a wee update. So the specific area you're discussing was a capacity issue that took place on one day 3 weeks ago, one Saturday, where the consultant anaesthetist, the locum consultant anaesthetist, tested positive before their shift. As a result of that, contingency plans were put in place for the 24-hour period for people attending at A&E in Dumfries who would need access to a consultant anaesthetist. You'll appreciate that in terms of volume and numbers, accessing an anaesthetist is very, very low, and the contingency plans were put in place with Scottish Ambulance Service and our colleagues at DGRI, and the plans were in place for the 24-hour period, and I can report that there were no individuals needed transferred from Galloway for that period of time, and also that the attendances at A&E continued in terms of minor injuries and your usual flow through A&E. So the impact upon the Galloway and individuals in the Wigtownshire area was minimal at that period of time.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Katie.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, no, there's so much positive stuff happening, and certainly, you know, I know it's very easy to focus on the negative when we're looking at healthcare provision. However, I'm always really gladdened when, you know, a friend on social media has interactions with the service and has nothing but praise for the staff and the level of service that we can offer on an individual. So I think it really must be noted at, you know, for that. I guess I'm going for 2 for 2 at this point. So again, I'm going to refer back to our last 6 monthly report. And there was a request at that point to have an urgent meeting arranged to discuss GP provision within the Wigtown area. Now, that didn't happen at all. I contacted various people following up that meeting. And, you know, I don't know why there was a breakdown, because that was requested via the Wigtown Area Committee. I did, through my own group representative on the IJB, try and get a meeting for myself, and I did manage to get an individual meeting on the 2nd of February where I met with some key members of staff, and that was really, really helpful. But there was nothing organised for the full Wigtown Area Committee members. So I'm just wondering, was there any update? What happened in terms of that? I appreciate that I did get a meeting with staff who took time out of their busy schedules, and it was really appreciative. It was really informative, and it actually offered a lot of reassurance. But rather than it just coming to myself, I think it's really important that that information is shared with all elected members. So can I ask whatever happened to that request for an urgent meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. And first, I must apologise if that hasn't happened. This is the first I've heard of that request, so my sincere apologies. I will need to go and look and find out why that request hasn't been actioned, but happy to take that action away now and see what can be arranged. I'm not sure in terms of the update that you received yourself, whether that was shared with the area committee in terms of that update when you had your personal meeting, but I'm happy to take that away as an action from today.
That's great. No, thank you for that. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. Jackie.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Stephanie and Caroline, for being here today. It's with regards to that old argument, cottage hospitals. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of the argument, although it does still stand, but I'm not going to waste time. Page 27, 3.3. Now, again, I'm aware that this is almost a historic paper. I heard the Chief Executive of the NHS Board speak to the Health and Social Care Committee in Parliament the other day. Again, some of his comments were pretty stark, the statistics. And I'm going to refer to the Wigtownshire data report, delayed discharges. Now, I'm aware, like I say, this is a historic report. I'm also aware of a recent report that went to Nithsdale, or is due to be at Nithsdale Area Committee, and the figures that I read certainly have risen almost 25% for delayed discharge. Now, I'm aware that there is a consultation in place at the moment. However, I think it is appropriate at the moment, given that there are significant rises, that there's an interim report. Can I make that request, please? I know that you can't give an answer today whether it can go ahead or not, but can I put forward a request that there's an interim report on delayed discharge, specifically for Wigtownshire, but for across the region, please, so that we're bang up to date with the figures. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jackie.
you. Can I come?
Yeah, sorry,
Can
Steph.
I come back on that? Apologies.
Not at all.
I can give you, if you're happy to take I can give you a wee update in terms of delayed discharges. I'm happy to do that. And as you've, apologies, but I do not have the full report that you have. So when you refer to page 27, etc., I don't have the council report. I just have my own report. So I'm presuming you're referring to the tables. So basically, in terms of delayed discharges, as you said, they have absolutely increased tenfold over this past year for various reasons. The current figures stand for across the region. Our delayed discharges are sitting at 108. The majority of them are waiting on guardianship processes, so that's a process where somebody does not have a power of attorney. And in terms of legislation for NHS premises, you cannot move somebody from premises without that guardianship process in place. What that in effect means that we are tied up with court processes, etc. So a considerable amount of our delays is tied up in guardianship, and that is, I think, down to the fact that a lot of people, in terms of having a power of attorney, a proactive power of attorney, would help address that. The second thing is in terms of packages of care. And what we do know is the work, and it's referred to in the report for the last 6 months. We have been working collaborative with local providers to try and provide sustainable care and support at home. As you know, the providers, like every other area of the health and social care partnership, in terms of their workforce, there's significant gaps in terms of recruitment and retention. And we are, as I say, we're working closely with them. We have seen an increase in the uptake of packages of care for both March and April on the back of the work that's been undertaken, with the biggest package pickup increase since January 21. So that's quite significant. Within our cottage hospitals, 70% of the people that are within our current cottage hospitals are delayed discharges, either waiting on a guardianship or a package of care. So I suppose the emphasis there is on, whilst people think in terms of our acute hospital, DGRI, in terms of the delays, there's significant delays, but we also have people delayed in our cottage hospitals who also can't get home. We do report up to Scottish Government on a monthly basis in terms of our performance for delayed discharges, and there is an improvement plan in place to address that. Obviously, I can't go into the detail of that here today, but given, was it Jackie that was on the call there? Given Jackie's request for a detailed report, maybe to come to area committee or members of the committee, happy to take that away and see what we can do to progress that.
Okay, Jackie, you happy with that?
Absolutely, Chair. Stephanie, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions on this item? Councillor Marsh.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the same topic of cottage hospitals, at 3.3 in the appendix of item 6, the first line states that cottage hospitals have worked at full capacity over the last 12 months due to a high demand of beds or 4 beds. At Newton Stewart, I can absolutely say that that isn't the case. That cottage hospital has not been working at full capacity. Surely utilising the bed space that we have to its full capacity would go some way to alleviating the delayed discharges that we're currently facing. Could you come back on that at all?
Yeah, I've just, as explained, 70% of the people that are in the cottage hospitals are delayed discharges. So if you're suggesting that we move a delay to another delay, then that's what you would be suggesting there. So the issue is not the bed and the requirement for the bed. The issue is the requirement for people to be supported at home with their care at home packages, to be able to work quicker in terms of a guardianship process. So the majority of our people in terms of delays are within our cottage hospital who cannot get home, and therefore, as I say, the focus needs to be on the care at home provision and sustainability of that model across the region, as opposed to a bed-based model that actually, as we know, as I say, 70% of 104 beds are people in there that's waiting to get home in our cottage hospitals.
Richard, do you want to come back?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other members want to come in? Okay, thanks, Stephanie. So we have noted Katie's request for full Wigtown Area Committee members meeting regarding GP provision in Wigtownshire. Stephanie, you've acknowledged that. You're happy with that. And Jackie's request for an interim report on delayed discharge in Wigtownshire in particular, and Dumfries and Galloway as well. Okay, sorry, Stephanie, you want to come back in?
Yeah, I just wondered if it would be helpful for the committee if we're doing a session in terms of the GP provision, whether we add delays into that as well. as opposed to a separate report coming. Would that be helpful for the committee?
Yeah, happy to include that. I think all members would be happy to include that. Okay.
Chair,
Sorry, Katie,
can I
you go?
just...
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely happy to combine that. But I think it was really just to have the opportunity to sit down and have a discussion on the GP. That was what was discussed back in November. So it was that, we used to have pre-COVID locality meetings every 6 months or every quarter. And it's something that I've raised numerous times. It was really helpful sometimes just to sit down and get a snapshot of where are we today, because so often, if we don't have good communication, that's where sometimes issues grow arms and legs, where there need to be no arms and legs, because it's just simply about sharing that information. So that's why there was a request for a meeting, just so that information can be shared. So yeah, happy to include the further interim report within that, but that's a report rather than a meeting as such. So they're kind of separate issues, but happy to cover them both. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, the locality briefings that we had quarterly were really useful. Yeah, and it would be good to get back to that, I think, if we could. So that's maybe something we could look at. Okay, no other questions on that item. Can we move to the recommendations? Members are asked to 1, note the overview outlined in the appendix, and 2, recommend any matters from the appendix back for consideration to the Integrated Joint Board where considered appropriate. Are members happy to agree these recommendations? Okay. Thanks, Stephanie. We'll move on to item 7, members. Communities Directorate 6-month assessment of business plans, 2019 to 2023 performance, 1st of April 22 to 30 September 2022. Report by Director of Communities. We now have the Communities Directorate 6-monthly performance report. This is a very detailed performance report comprising information specific to Wigtownshire. It is reassuring to see that the vast majority of the performance measures are on track or completed with very few exceptions. The range of work is extremely wide for our area, everything from support to major events such as the Book Festival and the Stranraer Oyster Festival, and many others, to terrific work with young people, building confidence and skills, supporting wider achievement. We have Harry Hay, Head of Neighbourhood Services, in attendance online for members' questions. Members have any questions? Hello, Harry.
Good morning, Chair. Morning, members.
Members have any questions on this one? Jackie.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, Harry. Harry, I think that my questions are more to do with the detail in the report. Now, I'm aware that it is a historic report, shall we say, but I'm just going to go over a couple of points, and hopefully going forward we can maybe improve the reports in such a way, and it's up to yourself to let me know if you agree or not. So for example, page 39, 3.12.7. So it's more about the actual detail in Wigtownshire that I'm looking for. So it refers to the number of young people attending youth work services. So it's quite broad here in terms of Wigtownshire. So 3.12.7. Is there any way that we can get locations and figures on that for Wigtownshire? Because it would be really interesting to know, for various reasons that's going on in the community at the minute. And just for a bit of information gathering, certainly from my from my point of view, and I know from other members as well. Is that something that we can look at?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, absolutely. As members will probably be aware at the moment, following the agreement of the new council plan, all services are currently going through the process to develop new service plans and new business plans.
Yeah.
And actually at council management team just last week, we talked about the importance of being able to provide performance information across all elements of the council, at an area committee level.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly confident that all heads of service will be considering that issue as they develop their new service plans, and certainly very, very happy. I can speak on behalf of Communities Directorate that we can drill down to the I suppose the lowest common denominator in terms of the area specific stuff, Councillor McCallum. So quite happy to take that forward in conjunction with my colleagues. Thank you.
Jackie, do you want to come back?
Yeah, if that's okay, David, just a couple of other points, just similar, that may fall under what you've just said, but again, you can keep me right. So again, page 42, roads and infrastructure. So looking at the appendix here with regards to the 25 miles per hour zones at schools. Now I know that we have a target to meet, but basically the appendix says nothing. It just says we don't report on 6 monthly. But it would be interesting to get that report. It would be interesting to know that figure and where we are today, just because, personally speaking, I've had a few inquiries about it. So if that's something that we could also request, please, Harry, that would be very, very helpful. Because, like I say, there's no data in the report for the Wigtown Area Committee. Secondly, and I know I was a thorn in your side with this a few months ago, but page 44, customer service centres. So we've got figures for attendances to Wigtownshire customer services, i.e. libraries and so on. Now, do you remember we had a conversation about, for example, Newton Stewart, and the need for it to be open more, and we didn't have the exact figures and so on and so forth, and we were going to have a questionnaire sent out or available for the public, and that was going to be brought back to committee. Did that ever happen, Harry? Have I completely missed it, or do we have figures, or what's happening? Where are we with that?
Okay, through you, Chair, I'll possibly take that second one first, if that's okay. Yep, certainly at Communities Committee, whilst there's general information that's been provided to this area committee, there was an overall report brought back last calendar year in terms of all customer service centres across Dumfries and Galloway and the operating model, and the results of an overarching survey that was completed across all sites across the region. Quite happy to extract some of that information and forward it, members, if that's helpful. And there was also a commitment from memory made that the opening hours would continue to be reviewed based on customer feedback. And I'm certainly aware that there have been some examples of where peaks and troughs of usage have, for example, resulted in conversations with service users, and perhaps a Thursday afternoon has been relatively quiet, but there's additional demand for a Saturday morning, and the operating hours have simply been adjusted and advertised as such. So I'm quite happy to get more information about that if members would find that helpful. In terms of the 20 mile an hour zones at schools, yeah, as Councillor McCallum quite rightly points out, some of the indicators in these performance reports are only reported on a 12-monthly basis as opposed to 6-monthly, hence why the specific details not contained within this report. But that's not to say that the regular bulletins that come out to all ward members in terms of roads activity within their respective wards, that's the type of detail that should very much be included. But certainly in subsequent performance reports, happy to speak to roads and infrastructure colleagues and make sure that the types of projects and initiatives that could be reported more frequently than annually are included. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Harry. Jackie, do you want to come back, or is that you?
Just one more, if that's okay. Harry, thank you. I think this just highlights, I mean, you're going to have to go back now and pick up various bits of information to bring back to this committee. And I think it highlights what we should maybe do moving forwards in terms of bringing the information. I realise the reporting timing, but I think to save you work after the meeting, you know, and I know it's part of your remit, but I think we need to really look at what information we're bringing to the area committee, but that's for a bigger discussion for us all. One last thing, Chair, sorry. So page 45, and it's the indoor sports facilities in Wigtownshire. Now, that is specific, my request is specific to the Merrick. I've had various complaints about the conditions, shall we say, of the Merrick, Harry, and I think perhaps I've spoken to you in the past about it. Maybe not, because the requests for maintenance, shall we say, has been quite recent, in that there are holes in ceilings, there are machines not working, handwritten signs on machines, machine screens not working, and so on. And I can take this offline with you, but I think I'm alluding to, and Councillor Ingalls made a good point in our kind of pre-meeting for this, is that I would feel that we would benefit as ward members for a visit to the Merrick, to take a look around, just because of the level of complaints that I've certainly had over the few months. Now, I've been sent pictures, if you like, and some of the issues have been rectified, but they've reoccurred again. So I think we would benefit from visiting and having a look for ourselves, just to see so it's not always easy to identify what the problems are or how, significant they are from an image. So yeah, I think through yourself, Harry, if we could arrange a visit of some sort to go up and have a look for ourselves, I would really appreciate it. And that's me finished now, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie. Sorry, Harry, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, very happy to arrange a site visit, and I suppose there's two different elements to facility condition repairs and maintenance. There'll be the fabric of the building, which we work in conjunction with the council's property services team on, but then there'll be actual fixtures and fittings. So, for example, sports equipment, fitness equipment, etc. But that shouldn't matter to the service user. The important thing is all are in good condition and there's a proactive approach to plan maintenance and repair, etc. So I'll be very happy to arrange a site visit, and I'll ensure that there's an agenda produced, not to make it too formal or anything, but just so it's very, very clear about what members' expectations are about getting out of that type of visit, and also what support officers need to be there. So I'll coordinate diaries and we'll be very happy to organise that as soon as possible. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Harry. I've got a couple of other people wanting to come in, but if I can just ask a quick question myself on that. Has there been a condition survey carried out on the Rhine Centre and the Merrick Leisure Centre recently? I know there's some money due to be spent at the Rhine Centre.
Yeah, Chair. So there should be a planned systematic approach to condition surveys across all facilities across the region. That is therefore used to prioritise the capital programme that gets spent on leisure and sport facilities. So the Rhine Leisure Centre, for example, has very recently undertaken a condition survey which has come up with round about £1.3 million worth of work, essential work that's required predominantly to air handling, plant, etc., etc. That work is commencing and sees the leisure pool at the Rhine Centre being temporarily closed, and arrangements has been made to use the pool at Stranraer Academy, for example. It then moves into the dry phase and the pool reopens, and work's going to get then done to the dry side facilities at the Rhine Centre. There was a condition survey done quite some time ago in relation to the Merrick Leisure Centre, but I was actually scribbling a note down there when we were talking about the site visit. I will ensure that Property Services get the most recent condition survey that they've produced, and perhaps consider carrying out a more up-to-date one as part of that visit. So that's maybe something that could be discussed at the site visit at the Merrick Leisure Centre, because you're absolutely right. Unless you've got that level of detail and knowledge and you're proactive and you're trying to plan ahead, investing a little bit of money at an early stage is far better than something escalating and needing a more considerable sum spent in it further down the line.
Thanks, Harry. It might be useful for members on the Wigton Area Committee to have sight of those surveys, the most recent ones, if that's possible.
Yep, certainly happy to arrange for that to happen, yeah.
Okay, thank you. We now have Chrissy. Oh, sorry, Katie. Have you withdrawn?
Thanks. Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Harry, for this. Like social work, I don't sit on Communities Committee, which you might be quite relieved to know. So this is my opportunity to sort of get a snapshot, and it is really appreciated. Just on this last point there, I too have had concerns in the past. I've not of late had many, but I have had concerns raised to me regarding the Merrick. That being said, I was there at 8 o'clock yesterday morning in the gym. I'll maybe not comment on my performance. I didn't have time to go for a swim because I had a meeting, and certainly all the equipment was working well. I was able to get on all the machines. So from that point of view, all was well, certainly within the gym facilities. So, and the staff, as ever, were so friendly and there to help. So, you know, credit to the staff where credit is due. So, but no, absolutely, I'd really appreciate an update. And I know certainly within Economy and Resources, there was condition surveys and, you know, looking at all the council estate. So it's just maybe useful to know that our leisure facilities will be included. I believe there's a future report coming to Economy and Resources just on that, so it's useful to join up the dots. I'm going 3 for 3 again. So back in November, on the 2nd of November, we had our last 6 monthly report, and there was a request for a report on the Newton Stewart scheme. Again, I don't sit in community, so you know, I think this is a really good opportunity to delve down into the detail. Now, I know members have had some reports. I'm aware that there's also been a public consultation, and there is reference to the scheme in the report. However, it's just a very small paragraph with no detail, and there was a request that we would have a full report on the Newton Stewart scheme. So it's just to ask, where is the report? You know, because it's really useful to have these, but if we're not following through with the requests, it doesn't seem particularly a good use of your time or ours. Additionally, back in November, I had raised the point that, you know, again, while the data is really useful, actually it's what's behind the data. And there was no exception reports provided back in November. And again, which I highlighted at the time, again, there's no exception reports. So while, you know, it's useful to see that snapshot where there is that big red dot, why have we got a red dot there, and getting some of that information? So can I please request again that for future reports, we do get that exception report to go alongside the data, because it's only with both of those pieces of information that we can really get a true picture of what's going on. I don't know whether to pause there on that. I do have a couple of other points, Chair, but shall I maybe just pause on those two just now?
Okay, do you want Harry to come back in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, in terms of Newton Stewart flood scheme, I'm aware that at Communities Committee there was more detail provided in the overall capital and public realm capital asset class report, and I've certainly been copied into some briefings and updates that have been provided in terms of the kind of project planning timing. If there was a decision of Wigton Area Committee to bring forward a specific report to the Area Committee, then of course that should happen, and I will make sure that the flood team ensure that is programmed in to the next available Area Committee. In terms of exception reports, Yeah, absolutely. There should be detailed exception reports for all performance information where the actual performance doesn't meet the target. There should be a more detailed explanation provided, and that includes overperformance as well as underperformance, because sometimes if a target's exceeded, that can be a positive thing, and obviously we need to understand why that's the case. Thank you.
Thanks. Katie, do you want to come back?
Yeah, no, thanks, Harry. I mean, it's such an enormous directorate we're working with across communities, and I think we could spend a whole Wigtown Area Committee just talking about these. But just to clarify, the agreement was, and I'll quote, to receive a further report to future area committee, to Wigtown Area Committee in relation to, so it was specific to Wigtown Area Committee. A couple of other points I wanted to raise. So on page 34, it makes reference to the shoreline management plan. Now, I'm aware that had gone out to draft, and I'm aware it's now been published, but does that go via committee for members to approve, or is that not actually a plan that we approve and it just gets published? Because I'm aware that there's a lot of consultation done around this, and there's, it's actually been in the offing for about 3 years now, and I was just quite surprised to see that it had been published and agreed, but I'm not sure, has it been through committee, or does it not need to go through committee for members' approval? Because I'm just conscious that if this is an agreed plan, who's agreed it? So that was my first question. The second one was on page 54, and it was about public conveniences, and I'm just conscious summer's coming up. We've got quite a range. I know there's been lots of work done in the past where sometimes communities have taken on responsibility. Is it possible, please, just to request a list of all the public conveniences with their opening times and who's responsible? Because often elected members get contacted, and it would just be really useful to have that level of information. And the third point that I wanted to raise was in regards to private water supplies. And again, I'm conscious summer's coming up. I mean, we might have a fantastic summer. It might follow spring and be really cold and wet, but we just don't know at this point. And it is marked down as red. And what is the council's responsibility in terms of this? Because there's no detail. It makes reference to it on page 44, and it is in the targets, but there's no detail around that. So what is it that we should be doing that we're not quite meeting? And, where's the responsibility? Because, again, in the past, I know I've been contacted by fairly desperate people concerned that their water is running out when they've been on private water supplies. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Harry.
Harry.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as always with these, as Councillor Hagman's mentioned, there's such a breadth of subject matter that rather than all 4 heads of service appearing at every area committee, we take the approach that one appears, tries to field as many of the responses as possible, and if they don't know the answer, they simply state that and ensure that it's followed up. So in terms of the private water supplies, it's simply to test, as opposed to actually ensuring that there's a water supply through private water supplies. It's to test the quality is fit for public consumption. And the performance detail demonstrates that the number that was anticipated would be tested fell below the target. I'm quite happy to follow up and speak to environmental health just in terms of exactly how they prioritise and what they've specifically focused on. But I know that service had to juggle priorities, including dealing with the recent bird flu epidemic, etc. So it's the same team that do both. In terms of public conveniences, yeah, absolutely, a critical element of our offering, if you like, not just for visitors but also for residents. And I know the team are now fully staffed in terms of being able to maintain and manage those, because perception is obviously absolutely important, and we need to try and balance the amount of inspections, cleaning regimes with the cost associated with that, and always, as Councillor Hagman has stated, if there are particular community groups that want to supplement that, or indeed take them over, as has happened across the region, very, very happy to support them to do that. You know, we appreciate that different community groups have got different capacities and interest in terms of how that's done. So we'll try and be as flexible as possible to facilitate that. In terms of the shoreline management plan, I know that the format of it followed the advice guidance issued by Scottish Government. I'm not aware of it coming back to Communities Committee. In fact, I'm fairly certain that it didn't come back to Communities Committee for approval. So I will need to follow up and find out exactly what the delegated responsibility is in terms of getting that officially approved following the consultation period. Certainly the body of the report says it's about to be published, and that was post September 2022, but I'm certainly not aware of it coming to committee to be. I possibly am wrong, but I'll confirm that, Councillor Hagman, if that's okay.
If I may, Chair, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's really helpful, Harry. I have had a look and it's not been to committee, and it's just, where does that delegation sit? Because I am concerned that
Yeah.
it has been published, but it's not necessarily been approved by members. Just one final point, if I may, Chair, sorry, and that's just in terms of, is it a term, is there an issue with I know we've got issues nationally recruitment wise, but in terms of health and safety operatives, I'm conscious that there's 2 other reports there about environmental health and the number of businesses inspected by trading standards annually. There's no exception reports. Is that an issue to do with recruitment? And what are we doing in terms of that, those points locally? Because, certainly looking at the, number of food businesses inspected is actually well below target. And, as I think I raised at full council last time, our food and drink industry is absolutely vital to the region. And, we want to ensure that we've got the very best standards and that we can evidence those best standards, because I think they are, but people like those bits of paper, don't they? So just, is that an issue with recruitment? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Through you, Chair. Yeah, certainly all services are experiencing varying degrees of challenges in terms of recruitment and retention. For example, within my own service, it's not just actually attracting staff to start with, but also the issue of internal promotion, which is of course a great thing. You're retaining staff that go and get another role within the service, bring that experience, it's retained, but then in terms of the wider day-to-day responsibilities, and absolutely giving all consumers the confidence that food safety, food hygiene across all our region and outlets is an important component part of what they do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Harry. Do elected members have any questions? That was Chrissy. You want to come in?
Yeah, hi, thank you, Chair. Just on, I think a lot of what I was going to say has been highlighted by other members. On page 37, under the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, I was just wondering, Harry, could you explain to me the Kensmore Open Centre, where this is? Because I was unaware of the name of this centre and where it lies. Is it in connection with the Douglas Stewart High School, possibly? I was just a bit unsure because I hadn't heard of it before. Thanks. That's my first question. Thank you.
Harry?
Yeah, my understanding is it's affiliated to the Douglas Stewart High School, as in Cairnsmore of Fleet. So that, I think that's where it gets its. But I'll get a bit more detail on the specifics if that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Thanks, Harry. Just with the Douglas Stewart High School not being stated there as Stranraer Academy, we've kind of worked that one out, but I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing, talking about the customer service centres, I do remember bringing it up at a previous committee, whether it was communities or education, about the customer service centres possibly being open later on an evening. I know locally where I'm based, the library shuts at 4 o'clock, so for pupils or adults who are wanting to progress in lifelong learning, it's not great if they're wanting a quiet study space where they can either break away from siblings or break away from family and go and sit in a quiet space with a computer that perhaps they don't have access to at home and the internet. I just wondered if we were any further forward between communities and education with plans for that to be put in place, because we are actually in the exam diet time at the moment for education, and with not all schools offering that facility. I kind of wondered if that facility was on offer, or if we'd piloted it, or if it was sort of like in the process of something we're looking at, please. And then just finally, similar points to the points that Katie brought up. On page 52, the percentage of people that feel safe in their neighbourhood. I know it says that we don't measure in half years, but this data is quite prominent in both areas at the moment in Wigtownshire, because there has been quite a bit of antisocial behaviour, and I kind of feel that we need to possibly look at how we read the data there, if that's a possibility. And also, when we are looking at some of the percentages on page 45, we look at the Rhine Centre and we look at the Merrick Leisure Centre, and we look at the increase on previous years. I'm kind of wondering if moving forward, it might be an idea or a suggestion, if possible, to look at some of the figures from pre-COVID to see if we're getting back to pre-COVID, you know, if we are seeing people coming out more, rather than looking at figures just after COVID where people we know we're still worried and concerned about coming out. I think we need to look at pre-COVID and see where we were at and where we can get to, and if we're improving. So if that's a possibility moving forward, Harry, that would be really, really helpful to get some more accurate figures. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Harry, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, so I'll just take them in the order that Councillor Hill asked them. So in terms of safe study space, yep, absolutely. That's a critical part of what the customer service centres should provide. And as part of the joint action plan agreed with the Youth Council, there was an agreement that there would be a pilot undertaken across the region at sites selected by the young people that would see allocated study space during the lead up to and during the current exams. What we also agreed is that following that pilot, the impact of that and the feedback from the young people that used it would be analysed, and that would then directly influence opening arrangements in subsequent years. So I think my understanding is at the moment that there has been a bit of a mixed approach to it. Some have been really well used, others maybe haven't been so well used, but we're really needing to try and drill into why that's the case. Because it's important that the environment that the young people are coming into, for example, and this includes all learners, that the environment is the right environment for them. So it's certainly something that's been implemented with a commitment that the impact of that would be reviewed and then built into subsequent opening arrangements and how it operates moving forward. So that's something I think that will be looked at following the current exam period that's taking place. In terms of how people feel safe in the region, that is an annual survey that is carried out, but absolutely that's not to say that there shouldn't be activity throughout the year in terms of making sure that what people are telling us, either through that annual survey or indeed through other routes, isn't factored into how services are delivered, not just the council, but also the services by partners, including Fire and Rescue, Police Scotland, etc. So that should be happening as a matter of course. And I think absolutely, by way of providing context, I think looking at pre-COVID stats will be very, very important to ensure that almost a sort of artificial dip and then the very high spike, because obviously if a facility opens having been closed for a period of time, there's going to be a a significant increase in usage. But as Councillor Hill suggests, comparing that to pre-COVID, I think would give a far better comparator in terms of how the services are performing. What I am aware of is that in a number of leisure and cultural facilities across the region, there are quite a few that are coming back up almost to pre-COVID levels, which is obviously encouraging, but we just need to drill into the information in a little bit more detail to understand the demographics of that. Is it the same type of user, or is it a certain age group or profile, for example, that are starting to come back, and perhaps others are more reluctant to, because it's important that we try and drill into that and understand, which then should impact the way we deliver and plan services in the future. Hopefully that's a quick summary position, Chair. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Chrissy, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll just come back in, Harry, on the, and I know it was discussed at the Joint Council and Youth Council in the action plan back at the beginning of the year with regard to the study spaces and time, but that doesn't take into the views of lifelong learners, adult learners who possibly live in a very busy home, work all day, come home, cook tea, and then babies screaming, kids are wanting, you know, attention, so you can't study until a ridiculous time at night. So kind of looking whether we're actually asking those people, we're actually reaching out to enough people to see whether we're providing the study space, because the library's open, you know, between 9 or 10 o'clock and 4. That doesn't allow people that work that want to then better their career and study to attend the library, to borrow a book to read, or to use the internet and a computer in a quiet space, not necessarily just a safe space, but in a quiet space alongside of the children in the exam diet. And it would be interesting to know, or to have some information sent out to elected members in our wards to see where the facilities are open and what times they are open, so that if people do contact us, which they do quite frequently to ask us information, we can point them in the right direction of the libraries that are open, out with hours or when hours are changing to suit the needs, especially during this prominent time of the exam diet, where a lot of children will be very, very stressed and just need possibly that safe space to nip out on an evening and be able to sit somewhere and do an hour's studying out of the way of siblings, etc. So that information would be great, Harry, if that could be sent to us sort of like pretty soon, if that's okay to ask as a request, just in an email so that we have that information. That would be really great to see where we're at with that. Thanks.
Harry?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll ensure that the current opening arrangements for all customer service centres across Wigtownshire are circulated to Wigtown Area Committee members. And absolutely, these customer service facilities need to be space that the whole community can use and access. They're far beyond what would be classed as a traditional library, and lifelong learning is an important component part of that. So yeah, that should be getting picked up as part of the facility's ongoing dialogue and consultation with service users. And if there's demand throughout the year for that type of access to be changed or used, then very happy to look at it. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Harry. Any other questions from members on this one, Richard?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to highlight and put on record my congratulations for all the wonderful youth work that's noted in this report. It's something that should be encouraged, and again, I congratulate all the youth workers and the communities team for putting these events on. Secondly, on page 33 at 3.10.4, it talks about the round 22 tour series of the cycling that came to Stranraer, but it also notes the poor turnout. Obviously, with that tourism being one of the kind of mainstays of the economy in this region, and the upcoming Gaelach UCI Gravel World Series that's coming to Gatehouse on the 20th of May this month. I just wondered what the council have been doing thus far to promote and big up that event, because obviously it could be a major tourist pool for people coming to this region. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Harry?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, absolutely. Cycling in all its types is very prominent in Dumfries and Galloway, and is a critical element of the overall destination that Dumfries and Galloway tries to promote. I'm actually aware that there's a briefing note currently getting prepared and circulated to members in relation to the Gatehouse of Fleet event. So I'll make sure that for their information, if nothing else, Wigtown members receive a copy of that as well. The council's not actually the organiser. We're supporting it through everything such as traffic management, etc., etc. And I know that the organisers are very, very keen to promote it as much as possible. And obviously, what is coming over the horizon, it's now less than 100 days. Dumfries and Galloway is hosting part of the World Cycling Championships. The para element of it is taking place in Dumfries in August of this year. And that overall event, whilst based predominantly in Glasgow, Dumfries and Galloway is one of the other local authorities, along with another 3 that are hosting component parts of it. That overall event has been billed as being as large as the Olympic Games in terms of, so it's one of the biggest cycling, it will be the biggest cycling event ever to take place in the world. As I say, we've got the para element of it over a 3-day period. And it's really, really important that the whole region, be it through the 7 Stains or other subsequent events, really make sure there's a lasting legacy there, because cycling is such a fantastic activity to take place in our region, brings in tourists, really raises the profile of the region. And obviously Wigtownshire, everything from the Galloway Forest Park and surrounding is great for that activity. So the more we can do to promote that, the better. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Harry. Jackie, do you want to come back in?
Oh, yeah, sorry, thanks, Chair. It was just really to mention a couple of things on the Gralloch event that Councillor Marsh mentioned. I met with the organisers, so Harry's quite right in saying that we're just assisting the organisers with this. I will say and try and reassure members that the Gralloch organisers are all over promotion, they're all over community engagement, super impressed with them. They're expecting about 1,000 riders in Gatehouse over that weekend. They're hoping it to be, shall we say, a bucket list type event for particularly obviously gravel riders going forward. So I've seen advertising across Wigtownshire for it in shops and various places, but it's a festival type event as well, and they've got a fan zone and etc. And I'm going down myself as my remit and as vice chair in communities, so I'm very much looking forward to it, and I think and hopefully it'll be well attended. But I am aware that, like I say, the engagement, the level of community engagement certainly has been immense from the organisers, and like Harry says, the council simply assisting with road closures, etc. So hopefully we'll see you there.
Thanks for that update, Jackie. Right, okay, so anybody else wants to come back in? Okay, well, we have a number of requests and...
Chair.
Sorry, Katie.
No, you're all right. I'm just taking a little opportunity here, saying we're talking about cycling, just to put on record Granny Maeve, who's cycling from Stranraer all the way around Scotland. So just to say to Harry, if we've got any events that are being supported by Dumfries and Galloway Council, if we're in need of a celebrity, I think we should absolutely be reaching out to Granny Maeve, who is doing a fantastic job. If anybody's not on Twitter or following her progress, she is incredible. An 84-year-old woman cycling all down Scotland. So just, I think, putting on Wigtown Area Committee are, well, certainly my awe, having been cycling up the gravel tracks in the Galloway Forest Park. Yeah, honestly, hats off to the ladies. So I just wanted to take that cheeky opportunity. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely, a wonderful lady and a wonderful effort. Jackie, do you want to come back?
Yeah, it was just actually, Katie, thanks for highlighting that. Harry, we have, or we can have a sight of Maeve's schedule, and she is coming through Dumfries and Galloway, well, obviously. Is there any way that we could potentially make a fuss of her, if you like, from a council's point of view, maybe have a certain meeting place to watch or cheer her on? It's just an idea that I'm throwing out there. It's maybe for a bigger discussion.
Harry?
Yep, through you, Chair. Yeah, absolutely. Aware of the fantastic endeavours and quite happy to speak to our leisure and wellbeing staff, who I know are well aware of the tour also, and see if we can't tie up a little bit of support and promotion for all the great efforts that are happening. Yep, so quite happy to have a look at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry. Okay, Ben.
Hiya. Page 35, just one last question about the public conveniences. I know that there are a few in Stranraer and Wigtownshire, well, 20, it's more than you think. But, and I know that the mobile cleaning team who, go around the mall and clean them, I know that they really work their socks off. I'm just wondering, because some of the conditions of the toilets are a little bit worse for wear. Am I right in thinking that there's a plan to refurbish toilets in Stranraer?
Harry?
Thanks, Terry. Through you, Chair. Yeah, the public conveniences across the region will be included in any condition survey work that's been done, and I know that there's an allocation made in the capital programme on an annual basis, so there'll be repairs and maintenance that are needing to be done reactively. So, for example, a burst pipe or a leaking tap will need to be sorted there and then as an urgent repair. But if there's any need for refurbishment or upgrades, that will be built into the capital programme and prioritised accordingly. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Ben, you want to come back?
No, it's
okay. Yeah, just on that point, these facilities are really important for tourism. I'm just wondering whether, obviously there'll be checks done prior to them opening up or reopening the ones that have been closed over the winter months, Harry, and just exactly what is done with them at that point. Do we basically just open the door, or do they get tidied up with like a paint or whatever and made to look presentable for the summer?
Yeah, so in terms of pre-public opening, there's a defined check that gets done, which includes, health and safety assessments, etc., some form of visual assessment. Any essential work that is required gets done, and if there's any more proactive work that's required, that's programmed in, and they generally all get a deep clean pre to opening as well. In terms of wider investment, that generally gets built into the capital programme and kind of done on a cyclical basis. So not every public convenience would get totally redecorated on every occasion, but the budget tries to balance the priorities with the condition of individual facilities. And I'm aware that for some across the region, some community organisations have offered to work in collaboration with the council really to supplement the budget that the council's got. And for example, it may well be that community groups want to allocate some resource just to enhance what the council can do, either through external floral displays or whatever it happens to be. So I think it depends on the individual condition of each site, but it's programmed as much as possible based on the budget that's allocated for it. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Harry. I seem to remember a number of years ago there was a move to ask third sector organisations if they'd be interested in taking on their local public toilets. Was there ever any take-up in that? Do you happen to know?
Yeah, there was some communities took it forward in essence as a asset transfer. So, for example, in Kilpatrick, the public toilet's now operated by a community organisation. There's been other public toilets that have been the subject of a shorter term lease agreement. So the community group is taking responsibility for it for a defined period. And that's not to say they're not committed to do it longer term, but they're just wanting to make sure that they've got the capacity and do it with their eyes fully open. So it's something that's still open, and very much so the council would welcome any suggestions or approaches from any community group across the region. And it's not something we want to be too rigid in terms of what would work, because it might well be that one model would work for one community but not necessarily for another. So we would certainly take a very pragmatic approach to what's right for each community organisation across the region. So there has been examples of it working very, very well.
Great, thanks, Harry. Chrissy, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just as Councillor Dashper, Ben, was saying there, I do remember in bringing it up, I think it was last area committee, about the public toilets, and it was in regard to the opening times and the condition of them. And we were told back then that a condition survey was going to be done. I'm just kind of wondering how long it takes to do this condition survey, with it coming up to the summer months and more tourists being coming through the area, and also with it being asked previously I'm sure it was the last area committee or possibly the one before, we seem to get the same information today, Harry. It's just to see where we are moving forward with this and when we're actually going to get some sort of information, and also with regard to opening times as well, because I know a lot of the toilets close quite early, and there's not much clarity on when they are open and when they are closed. There's no sort of like timings put outside them so that the public are aware, and they might, be in the area and turn up to a toilet with a child that's desperate and the facilities are locked up. So if you could just clarify some of those points, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Yeah,
Harry?
thanks, Chair. Yeah, certainly I'm aware that there has been condition surveys undertaken across facilities, which would then result in specific prioritised work getting done. I don't know off the top of my head whether all facilities have had condition surveys undertaken. I know that our colleagues in property and estates do it on a kind of programmed, prioritised basis. So I'm quite happy to find out what ones have been done in Wigtown and what ones are still outstanding, and some detail about the types of work that has been undertaken as a result. Opening hours at the moment are defined in terms of the operating arrangements that have previously been agreed. And again, if it's felt helpful to advertise those so the public know when they open, when they close, 7 days a week, that's perfectly reasonable, I think, for the service to look at and try and promote that, because very often visitors in particular, or not just visitors, but residents of the region, obviously use public toilets as part of their overall visit to a particular destination or area, and I think it's important they understand when facilities can get access. So quite happy to pursue that as well, Chair.
Thanks, Harry. I think Katie wants to come back in.
Thank you, Chair. You'll be relieved to know it's not a question. I say we could be here all day. There's such a wide variety of things. But I'm just looking at the recommendations, and 2.j is to consider any aspects of performance to be referred back. Now, Harry's already confirmed that he's happy to look at the exception reports which are missing and come back to confirm the delegation regarding the shoreline management plan and the request for full details on public convenience, which obviously other members have added into as well since that. I'm just wondering whether it's possible to get a further report back to Wigtown Area Committee in terms of the commitments made with our joint youth council. There was agreements made with the communities group that would be looking at automatic enrolment for young people to receive their under 22 free bus travel, creating, or the second one was to create a taster card for young people to enable them 6 or 12 free leisure sessions. And the third one was to trial a late night opening for library facilities. It would be really useful what work's being done in Wigtownshire around these 3 issues. I appreciate there'll be a full report going to communities, but for our next report back to Wigtown Area Committee, would it be possible to get an update on what we're doing locally within the locality regarding these 3 commitments that were made? Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Any other members? Happy to move on to the recommendations, but before we do that, Claire, have you managed to note everything that we're needing to? I've got a note of most of it, but run it paper.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll take a run through. I'm sure members will add in. Okay, right. Going back to the beginning then. We're looking for more information on user use of customer services centres. Harry Hay mentioned that our report had gone to committee, so it was offering to provide you the relevant parts of that report. You've mentioned 20 mile per hour limits at schools. It's an annual performance indicator in the report. But again, there was offer made to speak to those colleagues on the level of information that could be included in these reports going forward on how projects are reported. Arrange a visit to the MERIC. There's a bit of discussion about what that would cover. Request exception reports for their red data. Newton Stewart flood screen, again more detail on that coming back. Again, exception reports got a mention again about not just under reporting but where performance has been exceeded. Shoreline management plan, which Councillor Hagman's just mentioned about where that sits for signing off. List of public conveniences, opening hours to be provided, some clarity on the reporting about private water supplies, about the target, because it had been, the target was higher than the number that had been done, so just clarity about what that meant, whether there's a recruitment issue with health and safety operatives, some clarity again about where the Cairnsmore Open Centre is. There was lost my thread. Discussion about the customer service centre has been open later, about the engagement with broader service users and about how the hours could get looked at if it was felt that take-up would be better used. There was discussion about the pre-COVID stats, so basically looking at maybe introducing them into reports to provide a more information about the uses of facilities, not just comparing to recent figures, but how it compares looking back. Looking for actions here. Obviously, yes, Granny May cycling around Scotland and looking to tie that in. Harry made the offer of speaking to leisure and welfare staff to see what can be done there. In discussion on Stranraer, public conveniences and where that is in the state of repair and condition survey. And yeah, again, more discussions about condition surveys being undertaken and how many are due to be done, more on the public conveniences side of things, and the advertising of the hours for public conveniences. And lastly on my list, the Youth Council priorities and how those actions that were agreed at the joint meeting, I know they're reported to the service committees, but can they be reported to the area committees as well?
Thanks, Claire. A couple of items in there that we've also got, which is condition reports on the Ryan Centre and the Merrick Leisure Facility. We requested that, and public convenience opening times. I think that was only one of the things we didn't got that. Okay. Members happy with that? Is there anything you think we've missed? Or it's been a fair debate on this one, but it's worth it on this particular item. Quite happy? Okay, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to 1, review the overall summary of performance within the individual head of service business plans in the Wigtown area. 2, consider the additional area-based successes and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraph 3.9 to 3.23.3. And 3, consider any aspect of performance to be referred to the relevant future committees. I think we've done that. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Happy to agree.
Harry,
thanks for your time. It's been a long one, but it's been worth it.
My pleasure. No, thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Chair. Thank you, members. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Members will move on to item 8. Economy and Resources Performance Report, 1st April 2022 to 30th September 2022. Report by Head of Economy and Development. Our last performance report is for Economy and Resources. This report details some of the early start on the Borderlands Place Plan for Stranraer, which is still gathering pace and should result in a coherent plan for the town, and also encompasses the requirements for a local place plan. Good to see also specific detail in the George Hotel and the Stranraer Marina and the Water Sports Hub projects, all of which feature highly for local members and in the public's aspirations. It's also positive to see the investment coming in around New Town Hall through All Roads Lead to Wigtown. This was a community asset transfer, and it is good to see that when the council transfers a building to the local community, this can lever in significant external investment. Work on the core and coastal paths is also highlighted and detailed in the report. Stuart McMillan and James Little and Simon Fieldhouse are available online to answer any questions for members. So I'll open the floor to members' questions. Thanks. Katie, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. No, thank you to all the officers that have come with this report. It's really heavily based on projects, which is really useful, but there's maybe some aspects that are covered under Economy and Resources that aren't mentioned. I would also say I'm not getting to do 4 for 4, because at the last committee there was a request for a report on the Stranraer waterfront, and I'm really pleased to say that we have got that report. So thank you to the team in ENR for providing that, because it would appear that you're the only ones that have followed up from the last committee, so that's really welcomed. I think it would really be useful, though. We've spent a long time going through the communities, and having those half-yearly data points with, well, okay, we didn't have any exception reports, allowed us to see that snapshot, and we don't have that within Economy and Resources. I'm pretty sure, although the recording may be able to clarify, raise this at the last meeting. So could we please get those key sort of performance indicators at the Wigtown area level? I appreciate many of them, because if I recall correctly, across ENR, I think there's 3 distinct business plans that we work across. Some of them won't be appropriate because it's more about staffing across the region, but some of them, and I was sort of having a look through average times for planning applications, for example, having a Wigtownshire specific knowledge would be really useful. And this is the report that we should be getting that at. Repairs being done within timescales. Now, they weren't happening across the region, but what's the look at locally, and things like young people's startup businesses. Again, that was one that we hadn't hit. But where are we in terms of Wigtownshire? Because it is really, really useful to have that level of detail. I would suggest that there's perhaps a bit of an error in the report in paragraph 3.2, because it makes reference that the most recent performance report was on the 1st of September. Well, that actually should be the 14th of March, because we have had an update on that. So I guess my sort of question is, you know, can we get those specifics for the next 6 monthly report? And similarly, I've raised it with the communities in terms of the agreed actions across the Economy and Resources group. There was a request with the Joint Youth Council of looking at employment rights and what to expect from a workplace, but specifically Wi-Fi being available in all council facilities. It would be really useful to know what we're doing in Wigtownshire for that, and also in terms of it reference creating youth spaces within council buildings. But again, what youth spaces do we have across Wigtownshire to ensure that we're fulfilling those agreed plans going forward? So yeah, there's quite a few bits and pieces in there, Chair. No doubt other members will have other questions. I would just say, I know Simon's on the call here, you know, our outdoor provision that we've got in Wigtownshire is great, and I know the teams are working really hard. Obviously, Jamie's here to talk about housing, and there are projects there, and these are all really good projects, and we'll obviously come on to Stranraer in the next report. So just to thank officers for their input with those specific projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Anybody want to come in on that?
Through yourself, Chair, just to obviously sort of, I'll take back obviously Katie's message in relation to the KPIs to our head of service, and ensure obviously the next 6 monthly report is in a different format to ensure that there is that monitoring.
Thanks, Simon. I think that would be really useful. Any other members, any questions? Don't think we've got any. Getting off light, sorry. Chrissy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, can I just ask, on page 61, 3.5.3.2, it says about the Dumfries and Galloway Woodlands Initiative, primarily fund Woodland Trust, and it's currently being established. I'm just kind of wondering where that's been established. Is there different areas across the region? Is there going to be some sort of provision in different areas, or is it a team that will move around Dumfries and Galloway? Just a wee bit more information on that would be really good. Thank you. Thanks.
Simon.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you, Chair, through yourself. It's a single team that we've got in place. Well, we will have in place. It's been established. We've got the funding in place. The package is there for a 3 to 5 year period. We've got people who will be starting with this scheme as of October this year. And obviously, we're looking at trying to rotate around and work with community groups across the region to ensure, obviously, that we can get trees being planted where we need them. And obviously, sort of, it's in partnership between ourselves, Borders Forest Trust and the Woodlands Trust, the national organisation, to ensure that we've got some representation here, as we haven't had that in D&G for a very long time.
Thanks, Simon. Chrissy, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's great. And then just on page 68, with the current status of certain developments, the Garrick Hospital, Stranraer, the Lawburn Housing Association. I wonder if you have an update on that, because I know there's been a few issues with that. So I wondered if you could update members on that one, please. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Hill. Just to say that following the submission of this update, we were advised by the Lawburn Housing Association that the construction company unfortunately had gone into liquidation, and that the build on site had obviously ceased. We are expecting to receive an update from Lawburn Housing Association very soon, just in terms of the appointment of a new contractor. A timeline has not been provided yet, but I am meeting with Lawburn Housing Association.
Sorry, Jamie, you're breaking up quite a bit. Can you repeat that?
Next week. Apologies, I'm short. You had to break up there, so I'll just give the full update again. Just in terms of the Garrick site, we were advised by Lawburn Housing Association towards the end of April that the the farm that we're building on site had gone into liquidation. They haven't yet appointed a new contractor, but they are looking to do so as promptly as possible. And no timeline's been provided as yet. But all prospective tenants who are due to move into the site have been advised that there will be a delay to the completion of the works there. I'm meeting with Lobban Housing Association next week, so we'll receive a fuller update then.
Thanks, Jamie. Chrissy, do you want to come back?
Yeah, can we ask as elected members, with it being ward specific, if you could bring information back to us so that if we do have members of the community asking us for updates, we can update them as this moves forward due to a number of people, you know, being delayed going into the new properties. It must be quite stressful for them. So yeah, if we could have some updates, that would be absolutely great. Thanks.
Thanks, Chrissy. Any other questions? Ben?
Hi, yeah, just to follow up on the tree question, page 61. I know that it's great that there's been so many trees planted, especially in local primary schools, Sandhead, Park School, etc. here in Stranraer. It's really important that we plant new trees, but also that we protect trees that already are existing. To my knowledge, tree preservation orders have been suspended via the planning department. So as it stands right now, trees can't be protected because the planning department can't process the preservation orders. I think maybe it's due to staffing shortages or something. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if, as a committee, we can maybe follow up with the planning officers just to get their sort of response towards that. Yeah.
Thanks. Simon, is that your forte?
Thank you, Chair. No, it's not my area of expertise, but obviously I can liaise with David Sutty and obviously the other sort of planning sort of managers to try and get a response back to the area committee for you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Any other questions on this one? Don't see any hands up. Everybody happy? Okay. Recommendations.
Chair, I've got my hand up.
Oh,
sorry, I'm not sure the connections are great this morning. I would absolutely echo Councillor Dashford's request for the tree preservation order update. I think it's imperative that we actually look at that, you know, because I think, you know, it would be an absolute crime to see some of our really ancient and old trees that provide such great amenities. You know, people don't recognise really the value of our trees, but we absolutely should be, you know, fighting tooth and nail to keep every single one unless deemed unnecessary. And I know certainly across the waste department there was concerns that we're not planting the correct trees in the right places because leaves might fall and cause disruption to drains, etc. So, you know, I would love to see a tree strategy across D&G that covers urban and our rural areas, and also encourage, you know, the numerous farmers that we have across the region to encourage, you know, nature pathways through, you know, to really increase that biodiversity. My request really though is under the recommendation 2.3, which is to consider any aspects of performance, and I did touch upon it across looking at, you know, some of the key performance indicators, but I wonder, would it be possible to get an update regarding initiatives that are happening across Wigtownshire that support young people in employment, and all people in employment? I'm conscious that the local employability partnership meets regularly, often in Dumfries, although there's representation from across the region, including DWP and SOCI, etc. And actually to find a snapshot of what work is being done across Wigtownshire would be really useful, because we've got lots of project information, but actually the employability side is really crucial. So it would be really useful if we can request an update from the local employability partnership specific to Wigtownshire for the next committee. Thank you.
thanks, Chair. Yes, Katie, sorry. My mind's wandering here about this tree strategy. Yeah, it's actually quite a good question. I'm just wondering whether there is such a thing or whether something could be developed for Dumfries and Galloway. It's concerning that tree preservation orders are suspended. I think that is a major concern. And how are we dealing with that? You know, or how long is that going to go on for? Thanks.
Chair, just through yourself, in relation to the tree strategy that Councillor Hagman mentioned, we are in the process of reviewing, and we do have a forest and woodland strategy for the region that is part of an associated planning sort of guidance, which obviously outlines constraints, opportunities for tree planting across the region. We will obviously sort of look at trying to bring that one back to economy and resources as and when that's been developed. But obviously, we do have some form of policy that's in place. It's a little out of date, hence why we needed to review that. But obviously, we'd be happy to obviously look at how we can make that a bit more robust, and obviously link in with planning to look at TPO's issues as well.
Yeah, thanks. It'd be useful to know just exactly where we're going with the preservation orders, whether that's due to start up again. Anybody else want to come in? Is there any other questions? No? Okay. Before we go to recommendations, there are a number of action points. Claire, did you manage to get them noted? Do you want me to go through them? KPIs have been requested by Katie going forward, which I think is a very valid point. These would highlight issues locally. I think that other than the tree preservation order, I think that was the main two, am I right? Oh, yeah.
And there was the...
Chair, I may, there was the request for the LEP update for Wigtownshire. So in terms of our local employability partnership, what work's happening locally across Wigtownshire?
Yeah, local employability partnership update request. And you also had the Youth Council actions as well, similar to requests made of communities.
Yeah, and also the update on the tree protection order through planning, so we know where we're going with that one. So is everybody quite happy with what we've captured for this item? Okay, can we move to recommendations? Members are asked to 1. Review the overall summary of the performance within the individual head of service business plans in the Wigton area. 2. Consider the additional area-based successes and developments as detailed in the key successes section of this report, paragraph 3.4 to 3.5. And 3. Consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant future committees. Are we happy that we have done so? Okay, thanks members. We'll move on to item 9. Stranraer Regeneration Update Report by Head of Economy and Development. I'm pleased to see an update on Stranraer Regeneration coming to this committee, as members of the public and elected members are always keen to see progress detailed. Members have for a long time been very keen to see information fully and regularly communicated to the public across all projects in Stranraer and will be interested in the plans to do so. They have also been keen to see engagement with the public being implemented as fully as possible, and there is narrative at 3.8 saying that the success around engagement on the George Hotel will be built on to engage stakeholders around Stranraer waterfront. Melissa McGarry, Stuart McMillan and Sarah Jane Alsop are available online to answer any questions for members. Without further ado, I'll open the floor to members' questions. Do we have any questions or hands up? No? Oh, Katie. Sorry, Katie.
Oh, I think you'd be disappointed if I didn't have a question. There we are. No, thank you for this. I think it is really useful to get this in a concise one report on committee that we can share with the public, that the public can see what's happening. I really appreciate that we have been having Wigtownshire updates, you know, in verbal meetings and online meetings, which has been really useful. I'm wondering, I apologise because I'm not in Stranraer today. I'm further east in Freetown still, but the George Hotel, it makes reference that the start of the work would begin by the end of the second quarter of 23-24. Now, the end of the second quarter I have in my mind is June. We're now in May. Is that due to start in the next couple of weeks? Because people will be anxious, or has it already started? Apologies, I've not been in Stranraer to view for myself, but is there an update regarding that one? And yeah, just really welcome the report. It's great to have it all in one place and see things progress, and also, you know, murals popping up, and it's all really positive and creating such a buzz about the town. Thanks.
Chair, just through you, thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Hagman. I hope the report does provide that comprehensive overview on everything that's going on within the town, and it's substantive, as you can see. We're going to use a lot of the content of this report as well to develop further communication and exhibition style materials that will go into the library, and will reflect some of those updates online as well. So there's a communication strategy now beginning to build for all of the activities that are going on within the town across all of the different projects. Sarah Jane is the project lead for the George Hotel, and I'm sure she's able to give you a bang up to date position on the tender for the contract and the expected start date. We'll bring her in.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah Jane.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Yes, the tender exercise is nearing the stage where it will actually go live at the moment. My inbox is filling up at the moment with the various design team members getting documents to go out towards the tender package. We expect the tender to go live through a mini competition of a framework through Scottish Procurement Alliance in May, probably towards the latter end of May, with the tender time being 4 to 6 weeks. Then there will be a tender, there will obviously be analysis of applicants. We're looking to award the contract and have site mobilisation in July of this year. So perhaps into early Q3 it will be, but certainly we are planning site start later in the summer to get offices in, as I say, set the facilities mobilised, and then a plan for demolition works. We're obviously aware that traffic management around the closure on Church Street with the ongoing work of the museum. We've been liaising with the PMO and the other contractors on site to ensure that we're on top of that, and we'll get information out as soon as we can to ensure that the public's kept up to date. We also, in relation to the George, will need to wait until the contractor is agreed and they have a plan of the order that they want to complete demolition site, so we can understand fully the impact that will have on specifics like Church Street and any need to bring in heavy cranes, etc., onto George Street. So we're trying to keep on top of that, and we will get that planned in advance to minimise disruption. We will make sure that the residents around the immediate site are kept up to date with information as soon as we have it, and we're going to make sure that we stay on top of ensuring that the public knows how the contract's going to progress.
That's great, thanks. Katie, do you want to come back?
No, that's fine, Chair. No, thank you for that. I think it is just knowing that the project is moving forward. I guess the only other comment I had was, do we have a completion date set? I mean, and if there's slippage, how are we going to manage that? But, let's not talk about the slippage before it even began, because, I'm really conscious it's very easy to talk down projects, and actually, while there's such a buzz, I think we should be talking it up and actually getting behind it all. So, no, thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Anybody else? Andrew, do you stay?
Thanks, Chair. So I've got two questions. One is regarding the cars projects. Now, this aspect of the cars project is not mentioned in the report, and that is the arches. I'm looking for a timescale when we're looking to start that, or I know it might not be us that's starting that, but the the owner is going to start that work. And then secondly, is maybe a wee bit more generic and maybe a wee bit more difficult to answer. The £6 million that was offered to us by the Scottish Government years ago. Now, I know that's coming to us, but in what mechanism has that come to us? Does that come to us through SOSI, or has that come to us directly as a council to distribute? Thank you.
Sarah Jane, can you answer that?
I'll maybe take that one, Chair, if that's okay.
Stuart. Yeah.
So first of all, on the CARS project, Councillor Giusti, so these, of course, are projects that are delivered by the owners themselves, with us offering grant support for all of those. So the arches and I think there's Gillespies as well, which are the two sort of final priority projects within for Stranraer CARS project that are trying to be delivered. They have grant offers. They now have tender costs back from their contractors. And there's an ongoing discussion with the CARS officer about a little bit of a gap that's opened up when it's actually gone to tender. So there's some affordability to work through. There's discussions happening with the owner around that. So we're facilitators to this. We try and encourage the owner to take up the offer. They're very good offers. We're talking about 90% grant intervention rates on the contracts. So they are very, very attractive, but obviously they still need to meet a part of the financial contribution themselves. And that can be difficult at times. So that's where those are at. £6 million offer that had been made from the Scottish Government. Yes, that is. I think you preempted. I think what my answer would be on that. That really is lining up conversations between ourselves and SOSI about the mechanisms for expenditure of that. We've been hopeful and awaiting the development of the police plan for Stranraer as well, because that might give us a really good context for the way in which the community would like to see the town develop, and out of that some potential investable projects which may begin to unlock the drawdown of some of that financial commitment from the government.
So just to come back on that, Chair, if you don't mind.
Yeah, fine, Andrew.
Thank you. So will it be SOSI, is, from my understanding, is who's going to be drawing down that funding?
That's my understanding as well, Councillor. Yes. Yes.
Is that you, Andrew? Andrew, you gone? You still there?
No, that's me answered. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. So, Jackie, do you want to come in?
Yeah, Chair, just very, very quickly, just to help my understanding, and I apologise if this is going over old ground, but Stuart, maybe you can help me out in understanding. So my understanding is that the money, the £6 million that Councillor Giusti asked about, was given to the council and not SOSI. What's the process and how it ended up with SOSI? Just to help my understanding of how it all works going forward. Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks very much. So I think what we'll do is we'll drop you the area committee members a wee briefing note after this as well, just to clarify the situation as well. Obviously, just having arrived at the council myself, I'm picking up some of these issues as well. But from my understanding of the issue, the money is still held with the Scottish Government. So it's not been drawn down either by SOSI or the council, but the mechanism for doing that is open for discussion. But that SOSI have been tasked essentially as the as the gatekeeper to that sort of investment money, to be able to work with us to identify the projects that £6 million will support. So if that's okay, I'll clarify the issues and get quite a definitive briefing note pulled together for all members of the area committee, so that everybody is on the same page in terms of the £6 million.
Chair, can I just come back? Sorry.
Yeah, come back, Jackie.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stuart. I appreciate your position on this is very new, so I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. Chair, can I just put on record that if the Scottish Government are still holding this money, is there an opportunity for us to completely remove SOSI from this process and completely own it? Because we're more than capable of doing so. So if that's, Stuart, if you could just take that back to whoever you need to take it back to, and if you could just put that on record, please, that's my preference here. Thanks.
Absolutely. Hey, Jackie, I think it's a very valid point. Yeah, my understanding was that £6 million, I'm presuming that money is ring-fenced for waterfront projects in Stranraer. I thought that was what it was deemed to be allocated to. Yeah, so it's something that I think we as a council should be looking to maybe be the facilitator for the projects and the money that's spent on those projects, rather than going through South Scotland Enterprise. But there may be reasons why it's went there, but certainly we can ask the question. Jackie, are you happy with that? Jackie, are you happy with that?
I am, yes. Thanks, Chair. Sorry.
Okay, any other questions? Richard?
Thank you, Chair. On page 75 of the report, at 3.8, where it talks about the term one waterfront, I just wondered how far down the road are we with this engagement of the public, and how measurable is it? How bought in are the public of Stranraer to this one waterfront idea? Thank you.
Stuart, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, thanks very much, councillors. So I'll touch a little bit on that and bring my colleague Sarah Jane into that to talk about the excellent work that has actually been underway through the George Hotel project and others on a creative placemaking approach to Stranraer, which has really helped to engage the wider community of Stranraer on the development of the projects. I think one of the things that we are trying to do is communicate very clearly that there's a join up amongst a lot of the projects that we're doing, so each project, although it stands on its own merits in terms of how we manage it, there's the collective gain of doing them all is far more than just the sum of the parts. So that is where this term one waterfront has come from. It's that range of projects that we're aligning them, we're coordinating them, so that I think that everybody will be able to start to see that expressed as a bit of an identity for that part of Stranraer and for the collection of all of these projects. I mentioned previously that we will be doing some communication and publicity work over the next period, which will have a base within Library and Customer Service Centre. You'll start to see some of that identity coming through in those communication pieces as well. And maybe bring Sarah Jane in then just to talk about the creative placemaking approach to some of the projects and the success that has had.
Thank you, Stuart. Yes, really just to echo Stuart's comments there, in that the one waterfront is very much an identity and a mindset that the projects that are being completed in Stranraer are working to. I think, as Stuart said as well, we've initially started the creative placemaking approach with the George Hotel project, as that was the one that was furthest advanced in relation to its development, and it's the timing of community engagement. We started the creative placemaking exercise to ensure that the community was very heavily involved in shaping what should happen at the high profile site. That the grassroots element of that and the events that have taken place, the mural, the meetings and activities have been really well attended, and the community have really got behind the ethos of that. So the hope is to now move into this next phase of developing the waterfront specific projects in relation to the marina. Obviously, Stranraer Water Sports is well advanced as well. It's developing through the Stranraer Water Sports Association. But to couple those two projects together, there's been a bit of work going on in the background where the marina staff and the Water Sports Association have been agreeing and talking amongst themselves as what one waterfront means, understanding how the themes for working going forward. I think you'll see in the next phase that sort of public message, now that those groups are getting together, they're agreeing the terms and how they want to work together, what that means for those two projects together. You will start to see that branding and that communication coming out in this next phase, where we continue the creative placemaking approach with projects over the summer and into next year, and we start to really gather views on how the public and the residents would like to interact with the developments at the marina. What would they like to see within the spaces that they can use and that they can access? So I think it's a work in progress, but definitely the commitment is there, and that the will be an extension of these types of activities with a specific one waterfront theme over the next few months.
Sarah Jane. Thanks, Sarah Jane. Chrissy, did you want to come? Richard, do you want to come back in? Sorry.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Just on that note, because it all sounds wonderful, the project really, it sounds absolutely fantastic. However, I'm not sure it encapsulates the whole of the pier front. To get to the one waterfront, part of it, you're going to have to drive past the East Pier, which currently looks pretty shabby and untidy. Is there any possibility to incorporate even just the tidying up, beautifying a little that East Pier, because it's going to look fairly unsightly compared to the wonderful new one waterfront development? Thank you.
Sarah Jane, don't know if you can answer that one. Or Stuart?
Yeah. Obviously, East Pier belongs to Stena. It's not actually in council ownership, but I understand that the police team that are actually developing the police plan have some potential ideas for projects over the next year or two, which may look at that sort of element of how we, in the short to medium term, smarten up that area, get some meantime uses, look at how it can, the visual impact of it can be eased on visitors to the town. There is, in my mind, no short-term answer to that. And as I say, we have this other stakeholder that is Stena that obviously have full control of that site. But I know that the teams that are working are looking at that short-term, what can we do to brighten it up, to make it look more appealing to the area. And there should be more coming on that over the next few months.
Richard, you happy with that? Yeah, I think it's a very valid point. We as a council have a responsibility, and Stena has a responsibility as well, to the people of Stranraer to tidy up that site. And we're putting a lot of investment into Stranraer through various sources. And I think the conversation needs to be started again about some light development on the East Pier. That's something maybe through Economy and Resources we can take forward. but I think there's certainly we need to get round the table again and look at these pier and see what can be done to make it a bit more attractive. Chrissy, did you want to come in? I've got you down.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether the part of the 6 million had been promised towards helping with the East Pier, but obviously we're going to get a report back on that. It was just really, I mean, there's some fantastic work going on with the George Hotel, with the waterfront, with the water sports, with everything that's going on in the community. It is fantastic. But I do have to highlight that it's fantastic if you are into arts and you are into water sports. And so my concern is, and I've had it raised to me by a number of constituents, sort of like ages between 18 and late 20s, that they wouldn't attend a museum or an arts and culture centre. And so they're asking whether these are going to be sustainable, as that sort of like age group seem to not be catered for. They would rather travel up to Ayr, travel down to Carlisle, go to an escape room, go to a laser tag, go to a bowling alley, and do things that are possibly maybe it's too commercialised for Stranraer, I'm not too sure. But I kind of look at that as a parent as well. And I know a number of families have said, we don't have these things on our doorsteps. And with the cost of living crisis at the moment, people can't afford to travel. Plus the travel links from Stranraer and Newton Stewart area are not great. So people can't get to all these. So our younger people are missing out, and these are the next generation of people who are going to be the growth of our economy. They're the ones that we need to keep here to recruit into jobs and to retain in jobs. We need to also encourage professional people to move here and live here with their families, to take the jobs that are open in the NHS. We're lacking in doctors, we're lacking in professional people to come here. We need to ask the questions why. And when we're looking at all these amazing projects that people have worked so hard on, are these going to be a possible pull to this area for these professional people with young children who would like to go and do things? Now, I know we have our beautiful walks, we have our beautiful countryside that we can go to, but we also need to cater for everybody that can't possibly go away to Carlisle or Ayr or Glasgow to attend these types of things. So has there been any sort of like focus on any of these type of facilities or events within any of these plans? Because I haven't seen any. Are there going to be some possibly coming forward in the displays that you said in the library? Sarah Jane, please. Thanks.
Sarah Jane, do you want to come back?
I'll maybe come in if that's okay.
Okay.
First of all, yes, thanks very much. No, it's a good point that I think we recognise, absolutely, councillors, and our attention here in terms of the economic development programme that we're presenting to you here are the sort of mobilisation of capital investment projects that we have aligned and have been successful in getting external funding support from the UK Government Levelling Up Fund, from Scottish Government Regeneration Capital Grant Fund, and from the Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal Partnership. A number of these projects are focused on Stranraer and the West as a destination for visitors, as a stimulus of economic growth. So that's one of the reasons why there is a focus here on water sports activities, on marine activities. There are aspects of the George which take it further than that, because there's an indoor climbing centre and bouldering centre, as well as accommodation, as well as the arts part of it. But it has that sort of range, because we are really focusing here on the potentials for Stranraer as a base for active sports and active tourism, water-based and land-based. So it falls within that wider strategy, I think, of developing Stranraer and the name of Stranraer as an interesting place and destination for that type of activity. The other aspects of that, some of the points that you mentioned are really important, and we're we have a lot of hopes that the development of the Stranraer Place plan will start to draw some of those issues out as well and make some of those connections, and that gives us then the opportunity to base some follow-up and follow-through projects in the longer term, which may well cover some of the aspects that have been raised.
Chrissy, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd still like to know whether the plans that have been put in place are set in stone. So when Sarah Jane, you mentioned about there being more consultation at the library to move things forward, what would that be for then? Because from the answer that Stuart's just given, it seems pretty like everything's set in stone. And the more I hear about these things, they are wonderful ideas because I love the arts. But I know there is so many people saying that, is it sustainable? You know, is it sustainable for this area? And could we be putting something with the cost of living crisis now more in for families? And I know, yeah, greater climbing wall. It's great, you know, me and my daughter go on climbing walls wherever we go anywhere, and there is one. But it's kind of like, is there any more we could be doing? Is the bunkhouse going to work? Is that set in stone now? Those are the kind of answers I want, because I don't seem to feel as if I know whether those are the exact things that are going to be done or whether there's further consultation to take place. Sorry if I've missed something there, but I'm still a bit sort of unsure. Thanks.
I think it's a very valid point, but I think also what we're seeing in the Stranraer waterfront, I think is the start of what could happen in Stranraer, and I think the ideas that you're bringing to the table will come forward in the future, or will have to come forward in the future.